What if I told you that SpongeBob SquarePants has been a literal god since season 1? And I can prove it. Today we're diving into one of the strangest, funniest and most unexpectedly mythological corners of Bikini Bottom. A theory so wild, so insanely supported by the show's own lore, that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Before we begin, one crucial thing. This video includes only seasons 1, 2 and 3 and the first movie. Why? Because after that point, Stephen Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob, was no longer actively involved in the series. The tone changed, the writing changed, and the rules of the universe changed. So for this theory, we rely solely on the definitively established canon built under Hillenburg himself. Everything that comes after is spiritually fun, but canonically optional. Now, let's get to the episode that changes everything. Neptune's Spatula. SpongeBob and Patrick visit the Fry Cook Museum, where they admire the legendary artifact, the Golden Spatula. The sign reads,
"Only a fry cook worthy of King Neptune himself can wield
the Golden Spatula."
SpongeBob, being SpongeBob, just wants a cute photo. But when he grabs the spatula, he accidentally pulls it free, like King Arthur drawing Excalibur. Suddenly, boom, Neptune, the literal god of the sea, appears, and he is offended. He refuses to believe SpongeBob is the worthy one, so Neptune challenges him to a fry-off. First to cook 1000 burgers wins. If SpongeBob succeeds, he gets to ascend and live with Neptune in Atlantis, as a god. Now, here's the twist. Neptune wins by quantity. He machine guns burgers like a divine grill Terminator, but SpongeBob's one single patty wins by something greater. Quality over quantity. Neptune tastes SpongeBob's patty and his brain nearly melts. SpongeBob wins. But when SpongeBob learns he'd have to leave his friends behind, he rejects ascension. Neptune, impressed, transforms SpongeBob into a god anyway, ready to take him to Atlantis. But SpongeBob, being the adorable cosmic force he is, refuses again. He casts a divine spell, yes, an actual magical spell, and suddenly he and Neptune are back at the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob is teaching a god how to cook. And here's the insane part. There is never any indication in any subsequent episode of the Hillenburg era that SpongeBob lost those divine powers. Not a single line, no reset button, nothing. The transformation may have been permanent, and I say, since this episode, SpongeBob SquarePants is a god, and the evidence only gets stronger from here. But before we can claim SpongeBob gained divine powers, we need to identify what he could do before Neptune's spatula. And surprisingly, most of SpongeBob's early abilities aren't cartoon magic at all. They're just biology. Because SpongeBob isn't just a fry cook, he's a sea sponge. And real marine sponges actually have some bizarre natural traits that explain his normal powers. Real sea sponges have no bones, no muscles and no rigid structure. They're made of loose networks of fibers which lets them squeeze through tight spaces, stretch and compress, bend into weird shapes. So SpongeBob's early elasticity, like flattening himself or squeezing under doors, isn't supernatural. It's literally how sponges work. Also, they can regenerate lost tissue. This explains SpongeBob's mild regeneration in early episodes. One of SpongeBob's classic traits, absorbing water and liquids, also comes from sponge anatomy. Sponges pull in water through tiny pores and push it out again. Now we compare pre and post Neptune's spatula. The episode gives us a catalogue of Neptune's powers, the exact powers SpongeBob should gain when transformed. Commanding sea creatures, telekinesis, magical transformations, spells that alter location, reality and environment. When you compare that to SpongeBob's later feats from season 1 to 3, it lines up disturbingly well. It's almost as if SpongeBob inherited divine energy and just used it casually. Now, some people might say, but SpongeBob already had weird powers before Neptune's spatula, so how can we tell what changed? Fair point, but here's the twist. What if SpongeBob became a god even earlier? Shortly after he started working at the Krusty Krab? And what if the episode order is not the actual chronological order of events inside the universe of SpongeBob? Stephen Hillenburg was a master of subtle world building, and he left clues, real observable clues, that the official airing order is wrong. Before SpongeBob became a god, these are the clues you get. jellyfishing skill arc, physical training arc, growing fame in Bikini Bottom, Plankton escalating his methods. And after SpongeBob became a god, durability, regeneration, shape-shifting, bubble manipulation, cloning, and reality warping. But it gets deeper. There are explicit contradictions in the official episode order that literally cannot coexist in a linear timeline unless the episodes are out of order. Let me give you a few examples. In Season 1, Episode 11b, Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, SpongeBob reads a book with images of the Flying Dutchman. 2 episodes later in Scaredy Pants, SpongeBob doesn't know what the Flying Dutchman looks like and dresses as a generic ghost under a sheet.
What do you think?
Great! You're going as my trick-or-treat bag.
No, I'm the ghost of the Flying Dutchman.
In Season 1, Episode 3b, Plankton has a golden spatula engraved with SpongeBob's name. Yet, in Neptune's spatula, 16 episodes later, SpongeBob pulls the golden spatula for the first time ever, proving he is Neptune's chosen one. In Season 2, Episode 1a, Squidward eats multiple Krabby Patties, but in Season 3's Just One Bite, he claims he has never tried one.
Everyone loves Krabby Patties.
Yeah, well, not me.
You know what we say.
The only people who don't like a Krabby Patty have never tasted one.
That's me. Never had one, never will.
In Season 1, Episode 12b, Squidward cooks Krabby Patties perfectly. But in Hooky, 8 episodes later, he suddenly can't cook anything anymore. In Season 2, Episode 2b, SpongeBob acts like he doesn't know Pearl, even though they went to prom together in Season 1.
Say hello to me, Pearl.
Hello, Pole.
SpongeBob uses the reef blower in the very first aired episode, but canonically doesn't receive it until Season 2. Mr. Krabs has Mrs. Puff's hair curler in Season 2, Episode 7b, even though they meet 9 episodes later.
Even Mrs. Puff's hair curlers?
That one was a gift. Scrumptious, curvy cutie.
I see her, Mr. Krabs. A Krabby Patty with cheese. The classic.
Not the sandwich boy, the curvy cutie holding the sandwich.
Hey, that's my driving teacher, Mrs. Puff.
These are not just continuity errors, and with that we arrive at the second theory. The true chronological timeline of SpongeBob SquarePants reveals that SpongeBob became a god long before we ever realized it. Let me show you the real order of events, the one that actually makes sense once you stop trusting the official episode list and instead follow the internal logic, contradictions and hidden clues scattered throughout the series. Each segment will show the original episode number and title in the top left corner, and the true chronological number in the top right corner. Keep in mind, some episodes contain no clues at all, which makes placing them extremely difficult. I won't even reiterate some of the episodes. But the episodes that do contain hints fit together shockingly well. Because SpongeBob's story does not begin as the tale of a humble fry cook. It begins like many great stories do, with a girl on a summer day. At the very start of SpongeBob's timeline, he meets Sandy. He tries to help her fight off a giant clam, but of course, Sandy doesn't actually need saving. She finds his awkward bravery and unique sense of humor charming enough to invite him over. Inside the treedom, SpongeBob immediately notices a problem. There's no water, but rather than admit he's suffocating to death, he tries to stay polite and cool. Patrick shows up to help, instantly collapses, and Sandy ultimately saves both of them with water helmets. Shortly after meeting Sandy, SpongeBob and Patrick hang out at Goo Lagoon, where they meet Larry the Lobster. Through a misunderstanding, Larry assumes SpongeBob is also a lifeguard, and the two begin working together. For SpongeBob, it feels like fame, attention, and instant status. But everything falls apart when the child begins drowning. Larry leaps into action and saves him, but then clocks out for the day, leaving SpongeBob alone and terrified, because he actually can't swim. Panicked, he tries to stop everyone from entering the water. Patrick, of course, ignores all of this, ends up drowning, and SpongeBob's rescue attempt nearly kills him too. Both are saved by Larry, who then teaches them how to swim. Now that SpongeBob can swim, he asks Sandy out for his second date at Goo Lagoon. Once again, he tries to impress her with humor. But when Larry invites Sandy to join him for weightlifting, SpongeBob can't keep up physically, so he doubles down on jokes instead. It works, until it doesn't. He goes too far. Sandy gets annoyed, and SpongeBob ends up embarrassing himself publicly. But in true SpongeBob fashion, he makes things right with a heartfelt song, and he and Sandy reconcile.
And now she won't even spare a passing glance. All just because I ripped my pants.
With his confidence boosted by his growing bond with Sandy, SpongeBob finally pursues what she encouraged him to do: get a job. He marches into the Krusty Krab, survives the impossible order from Squidward and Mr. Krabs, and earns his first and most important role in the timeline: Fry Cook of the Krusty Krab. After the Goo Lagoon date made it painfully clear that SpongeBob isn't physically strong, Sandy sets out to help him train. But here's the key detail: she reminds him to wear a water helmet when visiting her home.
Be at my place at 5 a.m. Oh, and you'll need a water helmet.
This implies something important. This is SpongeBob's second time ever entering the Treedom, meaning this episode takes place very early. The training is too intense for him, so he cheats by buying inflatable arm muscles to appear strong. When Sandy discovers the deception, she pushes him right back into real training. After completing 2 of Sandy's wishes, getting a job and training, SpongeBob now sets out to fulfill her third wish: getting a boating license. Mrs. Puff appoints SpongeBob as the hall monitor, but because his speech takes so long, his shift ends before it even starts. She lets him keep the uniform until the next day. On the way home, SpongeBob finds a traffic jam caused by a broken light and decides to fix it, using his new authority. With zero understanding of traffic rules, he causes a massive pileup. He then escalates to breaking into a couple's home to teach them a lesson and sparks a citywide manhunt. The police only knows what the suspect looks like, not who he is. Clear proof that SpongeBob still isn't widely known in town. He's eventually caught and Mrs. Puff takes the blame for his actions, landing herself in jail for the first time. SpongeBob and Patrick go jellyfishing and fail miserably because they aren't skilled yet. They run into Squidward, who soon after gets into an accident and ends up fully bandaged. Wanting to cheer him up, SpongeBob and Patrick take him to jellyfish fields, but only end up getting repeatedly stung. Squidward gets attacked by a giant jellyfish, becoming even more injured. By the end, SpongeBob finally catches his first jellyfish and gives it to Squidward. Now healed, Squidward refuses to go jellyfishing again.
Ready to go?
No, I'm not ready to go.
So he hides in the Krusty Krab's freezer, accidentally locking himself inside and entering a dream state while being frozen. Everything that follows is purely Squidward's imagination. With SpongeBob's job going well and his bond with Sandy improving, she begins teaching him karate. Surprise attacks are part of their training, much like in this episode. Because SpongeBob is still new at the Krusty Krab and working under probationary period, Mr. Krabs fires him instantly once karate begins hurting business. Only once Mr. Krabs realizes he can profit from SpongeBob's karate skills does he rehire him, increasing SpongeBob's local recognition as a fry cook with unusual abilities. While practicing karate on the beach, SpongeBob and Sandy discover a club for tough guys. Sandy is let in immediately. SpongeBob is rejected as a weenie. He tries multiple strategies to get accepted, but fails every time. When told he needs to get into a real fight, he fakes a brawl with Patrick, and it works. He gets inside only to slip on an ice cube and end up in the hospital. After SpongeBob's impressive karate performance, Mr. Krabs sells him a pair of boots that he tried to gift his daughter Pearl. But they squeak non-stop and slowly drive Krabs insane. Most of the episode's event can't be treated as literal due to Krabs' unraveling sanity. But one thing is set in stone. This episode belongs early, before SpongeBob becomes a recognized local icon, but after his karate training begins. Trying to make up for the disastrous gift from Squeaky Boots, Mr. Krabs lets Pearl handle a full rebranding of the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob meets her for the first time here. Pearl transforms the restaurant into the Cuddly Crab, which everyone hates. Krabs forces SpongeBob to fire Pearl, only for them to discover Pearl secretly wants to quit anyway. After securing his job, SpongeBob is riding a confidence high, until Bubble Bass claims he forgot the pickles. The accusation triggers SpongeBob's first major identity crisis. Squidward takes over the grill and instantly proves he's a disaster in the kitchen. With Mr. Krabs' help, SpongeBob regains his confidence and confronts Bubble Bass again. During the face-off, SpongeBob blows his first ever soap bubble. Small, simple, and completely ordinary. This will matter later, so keep it in mind. SpongeBob exposes Bubble Bass as a fraud, hiding the pickles under his tongue. SpongeBob and Patrick visit a theme park and fall in love with such places. After boarding the wrong bus, SpongeBob ends up stranded in Rock Bottom, a bizarre, terrifying trench city. The only way home is a road tilted at a 90-degree angle. SpongeBob attempts to run up the wall but slides back down every time. Keep this in mind. Eventually, he escapes using a balloon. Mr. Krabs warns SpongeBob about the dangers of fishing hooks. Patrick instantly convinces him to visit a new amusement park, which is a cluster of hooks. The duo plays with the hooks recklessly, but manages not to get caught. Meanwhile, Squidward grills burgers again and fails again, consistent with earlier episodes. Krabs discovers their behavior and makes them promise to stop. Not trusting them, he sends Squidward to cast a hook, and SpongeBob takes it. He learns his lesson and begins taking Mr. Krabs' warning seriously. After almost losing his job multiple times by now, SpongeBob decides to improve his cooking skills and visits the Fry Cook Museum with Patrick. There, he accidentally pulls the golden spatula from the ancient Greece. From here the story is already known. SpongeBob defeats Neptune in skill, turns down Godhood, receives it anyway, casts a divine spell and ends up back at the Krusty Krab teaching Neptune to cook. What happened to the golden spatula afterward is unclear, but since SpongeBob doesn't see himself as a god, he likely doesn't keep it. SpongeBob joyfully pranks the townsfolk with harmless jokes. Squidward becomes fed up and retaliates with a cruel prank that SpongeBob survives far too easily. The first subtle hint at SpongeBob's post-godhood durability. Squidward apologizes, but even his sadness was an April Fool's prank from SpongeBob. Sandy becomes homesick and plans to return to Texas. SpongeBob and Patrick try to stop her by provoking her into attending a Texas-themed party. Their provocations work a little too well. Sandy snaps, chases them and catches Patrick, tying him up instantly. Knowing SpongeBob is now a literal god, she doesn't hold back and splits him in half with a single karate chop. He reassembles himself effortlessly. The chase culminates at the Krusty Krab, where Sandy realizes she already found a home in Bikini Bottom. After deciding to stay in Bikini Bottom, Sandy still wants to at least visit Texas, so she leaves and asks SpongeBob and Patrick to pet sit her animals. They befriend her caterpillar, Wormy, who transforms into a butterfly overnight. Seeing the butterfly, they mistakenly assume it ate Wormy and capture it inside a soap bubble. Again, just a simple bubble, nothing special behind it yet. The bubble allows the monster to escape Sandy's dome, causing a widespread panic in Bikini Bottom. When Sandy returns, she calmly captures Wormy again, restoring normalcy. Plankton tries to steal a Krabby Patty and fails. Later that night, he approaches SpongeBob while holding a golden spatula engraved with SpongeBob's name, the same artifact from Neptune's spatula. How he got it is unclear. SpongeBob refuses to join him, so Plankton hijacks SpongeBob's brain to force him into stealing a Krabby Patty. But even with control of SpongeBob's body, the plan fails. After that, Plankton attempts to exploit SpongeBob's godly power further. He pushes SpongeBob to become more assertive, leading SpongeBob to misuse his powers. He uses shape-shifting to extend his tongue, and his strength from Sandy's training to destroy a volleyball. But once SpongeBob learns Plankton manipulated him, he snaps back to his moral compass and uses his powers for good again. It's Halloween. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob the legend of the Flying Dutchman, and everyone in town scares him. SpongeBob decides to fight back and tries to dress as the Flying Dutchman himself. Patrick shaves SpongeBob's head down to the brain, which SpongeBob survives with no issue. They put on a show at the Krusty Krab only for the real Flying Dutchman to arrive. When he removes SpongeBob's sheet and sees his terrifying exposed brain, he screams and flees, as does everyone else in the restaurant. SpongeBob and Patrick play a game. Accidentally throwing a seashell through Squidward's window, they believe they have killed him after seeing his wax figure. When Squidward appears, they assume he's a ghost and obey his commands as servants. They carry Squidward around, again proving SpongeBob's gradual strength improvement. Later, Squidward orders SpongeBob to make music with a tissue, but SpongeBob can't.
I can't do it!
Remember this detail, it will become important. SpongeBob also reads from a book featuring the Flying Dutchman. Eventually, Squidward confesses he's alive. Squidward reveals he has never eaten a Krabby Patty. SpongeBob insists relentlessly until he gives in. He pretends to hate it but becomes addicted instantly. Late at night, he sneaks into the Krusty Krab for a secret binge. SpongeBob catches him in the act. His addiction spirals until he eats a mountain of patties so massive it becomes physically dangerous. SpongeBob forgot how to tie his shoes. Because he keeps tripping, he can't cook, so customers leave the Krusty Krab. Remember this. It later creates a long-lasting butterfly effect in the restaurant's customer traffic. He asks everyone for help, even the Flying Dutchman, but he only teaches him knots that move and make sounds. This moment is also important. In the end, Gary ties his shoes. Summer begins. Mr. Krabs expects children with money, but a new playground steals them away. To compete, he builds Krabbyland behind the restaurant and promises a clown appearance. SpongeBob must entertain the kids, but they only want the clown. He now blows impressive bubbles, but even they can't entertain the kids. Realizing kids love slapstick, SpongeBob harms himself. And when the clown finally appears, Mr. Krabs himself, the kids riot and beat him up. Still frustrated by his failure to entertain the kids in Krabbyland, SpongeBob practices bubble techniques. Inspired by the Flying Dutchman's living knots, he opens a bubble stand. He can now create complex shapes that produce sound. He believes it's the technique, and because he believes it, the effect becomes real. After teaching Squidward and Patrick bubble sound techniques, SpongeBob escalates further. He now uses bubbles to send messages. The sound contained inside the bubble releases upon popping. Squidward manipulates the two friends into fighting. Patrick angers SpongeBob so badly that SpongeBob snaps and breaks Squidward's cello. They reconcile later and the episode ends. Sandy and SpongeBob's relationship is at a high point. They exchange heart gifts and together they prepare a Valentine's present for Patrick. SpongeBob uses an advanced bubble creation. A chocolate bubble with massive durability that even survives bites from little clams. It only pops later because SpongeBob thinks Patrick's bite should pop it.
Patrick, no!
Spring arrives. SpongeBob plants a flower for Squidward, but something keeps eating it, a wild seahorse. SpongeBob befriends her instantly. Mr. Krabs forces him to release the seahorse, but SpongeBob hides her in the Krusty Krab instead. The seahorse eats absolutely everything. Eventually SpongeBob accepts that he can't provide for her and releases her. This episode awakens SpongeBob's love of nature. Customer traffic is still low in the Krusty Krab, so SpongeBob, Patrick and Mr. Krabs play a board game. Mr. Krabs becomes obsessed and forms a pirate crew with them to find real treasure. Using the game board as a map, they actually discover it. The Flying Dutchman appears and rewards them. After realizing he was too nice, the Dutchman's anchor lands in SpongeBob's house, then damages Squidward's. SpongeBob, Patrick and Squidward board the ship to complain. SpongeBob instantly recognizes it.
Doesn't this place seem familiar?
I don't know. Why?
I don't know, doesn't it just kind of ring a bell?
Because they boarded uninvited, they are forced to join the crew. SpongeBob and Patrick are such terrible pirates that the Dutchman tries to eat them. Inspired by the emotional bond with the seahorse, SpongeBob becomes obsessed with nature. He quits his job and leaves Bikini Bottom to live in the wild. But life in the wilderness is not what he imagined. He soon regrets his choice and returns to visit the Krusty Krab and Sandy. Finally, he returns home, where his friends have been waiting for him. Now seeking wealth instead, SpongeBob and Patrick start a door-to-door chocolate business. At first they fail embarrassingly, but eventually someone buys their entire stock. They become rich and live a high life. SpongeBob hosts a party to celebrate his new wealth. He creates an obsessively detailed schedule and becomes controlling whenever guests deviate from it. Eventually he locks himself out of his own house. After all this, the Krusty Krab has had 0 customers for 36 days. To save the business, SpongeBob invents the Pretty Patties, colorful burgers that initially no one believes in. Squidward and Mr. Krabs mock the idea, so SpongeBob opens his own stand. The idea explodes. He becomes even wealthier, so he gives his money away for free, because wealth means nothing to him anymore. Consumed by jealousy, Mr. Krabs trades the Krusty Krab for the Pretty Patty stand, but soon finds out they cause bizarre body coloration. The customers riot and demand refunds. With customers still scarce, the Krusty Krab staff brainstorm ideas to increase revenue. SpongeBob suggests giving away free drinks to guests with a mouthful of clams, and demonstrates it by magically manifesting clams in his mouth. Instead they choose to host a talent show. SpongeBob longs to perform, so he creates a sentient hippo-shaped bubble that dances in sync with him. It's unstable and quickly pops, but the attempt is extraordinary. Squidward refuses to let SpongeBob perform and assigns him the lowliest task, mopping the stage after the show. But SpongeBob believes this task will be his breakthrough.
With this mop, I shape my destiny!
And when SpongeBob believes something, reality tends to agree. As he cleans the stage, the crowd goes wild. After the successful talent show, Krabs hosts another event. SpongeBob performs stand-up comedy, but his entire routine revolves around mocking squirrels, which Sandy does not appreciate. SpongeBob manages to calm her at first, until the town begins mocking her too, repeating SpongeBob's jokes. Sandy demands he change his routine, but the crowd wants more squirrel jokes. SpongeBob has to choose, his career or Sandy. He chooses fame. To teach him a lesson, Sandy invites SpongeBob over and behaves exactly like his offensive caricature. Realizing his mistake, SpongeBob adjusts his act and begins joking about everyone equally. A debate erupts between Sandy and SpongeBob. Which group is better, land creatures or sea creatures? SpongeBob references his own jokes from squirrel jokes to insult Sandy.
You got some pretty good moves for a squirrel.
The argument escalates into a challenge. SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward and Mr. Krabs must survive 1 full minute on land. Once above the surface, they are immediately attacked by seagulls and Sandy has to rescue them. SpongeBob attends the jellyfishing convention with Patrick. There they meet Kevin the sea cucumber, a famous jellyfisher who intends to humiliate SpongeBob. But his deep connection to jellyfish allows him to surpass every challenge. Kevin escalates dangerously, attracting the Jellyfish King, but SpongeBob defeats him with a bubble cake. Squidward throws a scrap of paper onto SpongeBob's lawn. SpongeBob claims paper can do anything and asks if he can keep it. Squidward agrees and begs SpongeBob to never give it back. SpongeBob plays with the paper, using reality bending tricks to create music, shapes and even a short video. This is important because in Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost, SpongeBob couldn't produce music using a tissue. Now he can, showing measurable growth in his supernatural abilities. Squidward becomes obsessed with reclaiming the paper. People often ask why he trades all his belongings for it instead of getting a new paper. The answer is simple. Squidward believes the paper is enchanted by SpongeBob's divine powers. He thinks SpongeBob made it a magical relic, but once he finally gets it, it's just paper.
It's just cornflakes. Huh?
All the magic came from SpongeBob. Plankton tries once again to steal a Krabby Patty, but the Krusty Krab, now experienced, activates full security lockdown. Plankton still manages to escape. SpongeBob chases and catches him and becomes the town hero, but he pities Plankton and decides to befriend him. During jellyfishing, SpongeBob sings for him and uses shapeshifting and reality bending. Despite their brief friendship, Plankton tries to steal a patty again. And he fails again. This is where Karen finally pushes him toward a new strategy. Plankton, redefining his approach, uses one of his advanced inventions. He transfers his consciousness into an alternate timeline where he is the owner of the Krusty Krab, but the responsibility overwhelms him. He returns his mind to the correct timeline. Now fully committed to stealing the formula, Plankton builds a lifelike robotic Mr. Krabs. The plan nearly works because of SpongeBob's inability to see through obvious disguises, but ultimately Plankton's plan fails again. SpongeBob and Patrick watch their favorite superhero show dressed as Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. They pretend to be heroes. When they encounter Squidward, whom they call the Reflector, SpongeBob declares,
By the power of Neptune!
This is crucial. He directly states he is using Neptune's granted power, then summons a jellyfish. The boys visit the real Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy at the retirement home. Their antics trigger chaos until the heroes challenge SpongeBob and Patrick and lose, badly. Interestingly, the elderly heroes display superpowers of their own, but their origin is a different theory entirely. SpongeBob wins the conch signal. It devises to summon Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. Though he promises to use it only in emergencies, he immediately breaks that promise. To stop the constant summoning, the heroes take SpongeBob along. He casually runs up a vertical 90-degree wall and stands there, revealing an ability that he didn't have in Rock Bottom. Ultimately, SpongeBob rescues the heroes from the dirty bubble after they try to ditch him. At the end of this episode, the in-universe show Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy resumes broadcasting, setting the stage for what comes next. Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy eat at the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob begs for an autograph. The heroes flee, forgetting Mermaid Man's utility belt. SpongeBob experiments with its shrink ray and shrinks everyone in Bikini Bottom. Instead of undoing the damage, he simply makes the city and himself small too. Barnacle Boy, fed up with being treated like a child, joins the dark side. Mermaid Man forms a superhero league including SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy and Squidward. SpongeBob gains super speed here for the first time. Although the villains ultimately win, Barnacle Boy returns to the heroes under certain conditions. The super speed ability of SpongeBob persists across subsequent episodes, but gradually fades. SpongeBob watches a late-night robot horror movie. Paranoid, he begins seeing robots everywhere, including in Mr. Krabs. He convinces Squidward, and together they capture and interrogate their boss. Crucially, SpongeBob still shows the super speed he gained in the previous episode, and Squidward even acknowledges it.
Back in the kitchen!
I'm serious, Squidward. Mr. Krabs is a robot, and I can prove it too.
How did you...
Let's see.
Over time, the power will weaken until it disappears again. Mr. Krabs begins selling random junk he scavenged from local dumpsters. Among the treasures is a drinking hat, which he sells to SpongeBob. Moments later, collectors arrive and reveal the hat is worth a fortune. Instantly obsessed with reclaiming it, Mr. Krabs launches a manipulative guilt campaign convincing SpongeBob that the hat belongs to its former owner. SpongeBob, the naive soul he is, buries it at the cemetery with super speed. Mr. Krabs digs it back up, but when he tries selling it, he learns that an entire shipment of identical hats has been discovered, making the hat totally worthless. Squidward encounters his lifelong rival Squilliam Fancyson, who boasts about his luxurious lifestyle. On impulse and insecurity, Squidward lies that he runs a high-class restaurant. Mr. Krabs agrees to help him, converting the Krusty Krab into a 5-star venue for one night. Chaos erupts before Squilliam's arrival, until SpongeBob achieves a wild, hyper-focused state by purging his brain of all thoughts except fine dining and breathing. In this state, SpongeBob becomes the perfect waiter, until Squilliam asks for his name. SpongeBob spirals into a reality-bending breakdown that warps the prepared food into a monstrous entity, and Squidward's lies get exposed. SpongeBob and Patrick leave town for a 3-day jellyfishing training arc, leaving Gary under Squidward's care. Naturally, Squidward forgets to feed him. Fearing for Gary's life, they call the vet, who prescribes snail plasma. Squidward accidentally injects SpongeBob with the plasma, insisting nothing will happen.
What's gonna happen to me?
Oh, nothing. It's just a little snail plasma.
But SpongeBob's intense anxiety activates his godlike reality projection, and his fear manifests physically. Believing he will transform into a snail, he does. Later, Squidward is punished by the same magic and mutates into a snail as well. Mr. Krabs finally earns his $1 millionth. To celebrate, he takes SpongeBob and Squidward on a fishing trip. Disaster strikes when a giant clam devours the precious dollar. The three set out to retrieve it. After days without success, SpongeBob and Squidward refuse to help further, so Mr. Krabs uses them as bait. Against all odds, the clam resurfaces and Mr. Krabs retrieves his dollar. Using his divine powers, SpongeBob begins dreamwalking, traveling through the subconscious worlds of his friends and neighbors. When he enters Mr. Krabs' dream, he finds him haunted by the same massive clam. When he enters Plankton's dream, he finds Plankton being larger as buildings like he once was before. After that, SpongeBob's friends are furious with him. SpongeBob wakes up with his pillow in his mouth, after Gary's words from the night before manifest into reality.
There once was a man from Peru who dreamed he was eating his shoe. He awoke with a fright in the middle of the night to find that his dream had come true.
He sleepwalks to the fridge, leaves it open and becomes sick. While awaiting Sandy's help, Patrick arrives and convinces him that doctors are bad. Patrick's treatment only worsens the illness. Sandy eventually intervenes, taking SpongeBob to the doctor, where he finally receives proper care. SpongeBob visits Sandy, who is working on a rocket. She assures him there are no aliens on the moon. Patrick convinces SpongeBob to spray the rocket with alien repellent. He accidentally hits SpongeBob with the rocket door, but SpongeBob stands firm, showing his durability has grown dramatically. Once inside, they play around and accidentally launch the rocket, circling the moon before crash landing back in Bikini Bottom. Mistaking the citizens for aliens, they capture almost the entire town, which inadvertently raises SpongeBob's notoriety once again. A new student joins the boating school, Fred the Flounder. He wants revenge because SpongeBob captured him in Sandy's rocket, despite them being friends back in Texas. Terrified, SpongeBob fears a beating, but Fred ends up hospitalized by accident. Fred assaults him anyway, but SpongeBob only laughs. He feels nothing. This revelation that nothing can hurt me causes his durability to skyrocket, as belief fuels his powers. Fred eventually exhausts himself and collapses. Sandy prepares for hibernation and wants SpongeBob to join her in a flurry of extreme sports before she sleeps. SpongeBob quickly loses enthusiasm and hides from her. Sandy forms a search party, but they too give up quickly and also hide under the same stone as him. After capturing his friends in Sandy's rocket, SpongeBob wants to reconnect with them, but everyone is busy. Sandy's dome is in winter mode and she leaves SpongeBob a note saying she's gone south, when in reality she's inside, overeating for hibernation. To fill the loneliness, SpongeBob creates a new friend, Bubble Buddy. The two cause escalating chaos, angering the townspeople who decide to pop him. However, when Squidward tries, Bubble Buddy catches his arm mid-strike and leaves. This proves he is alive and sentient. A whole new level of bubble manipulation. Sandy replaces her previous note with a keep out sign and locks the dome. SpongeBob and Patrick ignore it and enter anyway. Sandy anticipated this. A pre-recorded video plays explaining hibernation. Inside, they loudly play with the snow and cause Sandy to beat them up while sleepwalking. SpongeBob is determined to win Employee of the Month once again. When Squidward enters the kitchen, SpongeBob accidentally launches a burger patty into a fan, which slaps Squidward across the face. Squidward mocks the award, and that's when a second patty materializes out of nowhere and hits him again.
I already told you that award is a bunch of baloney!
When Squidward then compares the award to SpongeBob's head and steps on it, the head suddenly contains lead, injuring Squidward. These coincidences are no coincidence. This is SpongeBob unconsciously punishing Squidward with his godlike reality-bending abilities. Obsessed with victory, the situation escalates into a rivalry. Their feud ends with SpongeBob dragging a full anchor behind him to get to work, showcasing his growing physical strength. Meanwhile, Squidward also shows progress. After failing to cook patties and pickles, he is now capable of grilling them properly. Patrick's parents come to visit and think he's dumb. SpongeBob decides to play the role of a complete idiot to make Patrick look smart by comparison. Predictably, Patrick overdoes it, insulting SpongeBob, who abandons the act and leaves. At the end, the real parents arrive, revealing the visiting couple were imposters who do not even have children. The next day, SpongeBob and Patrick meet and act weird, because their conflict isn't properly resolved yet. They hear something and instantly get mad at each other.
Alright, quit messing with me. I know you said something.
But it is you that is messing with me.
Only to discover it was a baby scallop. They adopt it, and for days, SpongeBob takes on every parental responsibility alone, while Patrick claims he is going to work. Eventually, SpongeBob discovers Patrick has been spending his days watching TV. When the baby scallop finally learns to fly or swim, they release it back into the wild. Squidward adopts a racing snail. SpongeBob enters Gary into the race and trains him relentlessly despite Gary's discomfort. Gary becomes exhausted and collapses during the race, costing him victory. Squidward's snail, meanwhile, falls in love with Gary and abandons the race to help him. After Squidward called Gary dirty during the Great Snail Race,
You can't enter Gary because Gary's a mutt!
SpongeBob decides Gary needs a bath, something Gary refuses at all costs. What follows is SpongeBob's comedic, increasingly desperate campaign to bath a stubborn snail. Pearl's prom date cancels and Mr. Krabs forces SpongeBob to replace him. But the SpongeBob he informs is actually one of SpongeBob's experimental duplicates. SpongeBob later attends the prom, initially ruining everything, but ultimately saving the night with an exuberant dance number. Pearl admits she had a great time and Mr. Krabs thanks him, only for it to be revealed that this SpongeBob was also another clone. Squidward and SpongeBob must exchange gifts. Squidward, being lazy, buys a cake from a group of pirates, unaware it's actually a disguised bomb. When he discovers the truth, it's already too late. The cake is gone. Believing SpongeBob is doomed, Squidward spends the day trying to make SpongeBob's final hours memorable. SpongeBob then begins creating exploding soap bubbles using divine bubble manipulation. At the end, the truth is revealed. SpongeBob never ate the bomb at all. SpongeBob's pineapple home gets devoured. SpongeBob and Patrick attempt to build a new house, but SpongeBob literally turns the world upside down and he floats high in the air while holding wooden planks. When conventional building fails, SpongeBob plants a seed and sheds a single divine tear, the tear of a saddened god. From this tear, a new fully furnished pineapple house grows instantly. After SpongeBob and Patrick wreck Squidward's house with their reef blowers, Squidward decides to move. He finds a gated community perfectly tailored for squids and initially lives his dream life, until monotony crushes him. When he finds a reef blower, he uses it exactly as SpongeBob would, which gets him expelled from the community. SpongeBob wants to tidy his yard. Using telekinesis, he slides from his window to the garage. With the reef blower, he bends reality again. He sucks the entire ocean dry for a moment. Sandy introduces SpongeBob to Christmas. He spreads the idea through Bikini Bottom and the townsfolk send their wishes to the surface in a bottle. When Santa fails to arrive, SpongeBob is heartbroken. Squidward then impersonates Santa and gives away all his belongings to keep the illusion alive. Patrick has a secret box he refuses to show SpongeBob, igniting unbearable curiosity. SpongeBob worries Patrick might be hiding the embarrassing photo from the Christmas party.
What could be in that box that Patrick doesn't want me to see? Maybe it's the world's only albino jellyfish. Or maybe Patrick's a master jewel thief and it's full of diamonds. Or maybe Patrick's a deranged maniac who keeps his victims' severed heads in a box. Or even worse, maybe it's an embarrassing snapshot of me from the Christmas party!
And he's right. He tries stealing the box but is caught. Patrick reveals the inside, just a string. After SpongeBob leaves, Patrick pulls the string and the Christmas photo rises from a hidden compartment. In case you forgot, this is the photo SpongeBob was talking about. SpongeBob learns a forbidden word but doesn't know it's offensive. He repeats it constantly, even at work. Mr. Krabs forbids it, only to unleash every swear word in existence after stubbing his toe. SpongeBob threatens to tell his mother, using the very swear words he learned. The trio is sentenced to paint her house. Mr. Krabs falls in love with Mrs. Puff and spends absurd amounts of money on their first date. To stop wasting money, he makes SpongeBob carry his wallet on the next date. But Mr. Krabs keeps ordering SpongeBob to pay for everything, then screaming at him for spending money. Eventually, SpongeBob snaps and uses the swear words from Sailor Mouth before leaving. Mr. Krabs explains that borrowing is fine as long as the item is returned before anyone notices. Patrick, having no money, borrows a balloon. When it pops, he and SpongeBob believe they are now criminals. While camping, they make a fire underwater, normal in SpongeBob's reality. But when Patrick questions the logic,
Hey, if we're underwater, how could there be a...
SpongeBob's divine belief wavers and the fire extinguishes instantly. After that, their anxiety grows and they turn themselves in, only to be released a few seconds later because the balloon was free. SpongeBob accidentally gets the Tattletale Strangler arrested. The Strangler escapes and disguises himself as a bodyguard hired by SpongeBob himself. But SpongeBob unknowingly tortures him through pure naivety, pushing the Strangler to the brink of madness. The Strangler ultimately surrenders himself to police, preferring prison over spending more time with SpongeBob. He lands in the same prison cell as Patrick, who turned himself in for being the Tattletale Strangler. It seems he didn't fear prison because he was let out instantly in the previous story. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob he is playing cards against Plankton. SpongeBob thinks about Plankton and a thought bubble version of Plankton materializes and tries to steal a Krabby Patty. The next day, Mr. Krabs reveals he lost, including SpongeBob's work contract. Forced to work at the Chum Bucket, SpongeBob simply refuses to put effort into it. His stubbornness breaks Plankton's spirit and he is soon welcomed back to the Krusty Krab. A giant pencil drops from the sky and lands next to SpongeBob and Patrick. SpongeBob believes the pencil is magical and draws a jellyfish. And because SpongeBob believes in its magic, the drawing becomes alive. He then draws himself, but his doodle turns evil, steals the pencil and causes chaos. SpongeBob eventually defeats his evil drawing by trapping him inside a book, then sends the pencil back where it came from. SpongeBob joins Squidward's art class and becomes his new student. Thanks to his confidence and godlike imagination, he creates breathtaking masterpieces. But Squidward, out of jealousy, convinces SpongeBob that he actually has no talent. With his confidence shattered, SpongeBob loses his ability to create anything. After SpongeBob leaves, an art collector appears and buys SpongeBob's sculpture, thinking Squidward made it. When the sculpture gets damaged, he is asked to recreate it, which is impossible. He begs SpongeBob for help, but SpongeBob's talent is completely gone. SpongeBob makes himself a Krabby Patty with jelly. A customer tastes it and gets instantly addicted, so Mr. Krabs orders SpongeBob to catch more and more jellyfish. This again shows SpongeBob's improvement of skill. He has also mastered cloning himself. When he discovers a factory where Mr. Krabs literally squeezes the jellyfish for profit, he decides to free them. Before work, SpongeBob visits his grandma, who then drops him off at the Krusty Krab like a little kid. Everyone makes fun of him for being treated like a baby. SpongeBob decides he wants to be more mature and tells his grandma. But when Patrick replaces him as the one getting babied, SpongeBob becomes jealous and wants his old treatment back. SpongeBob and Patrick go camping right outside SpongeBob's house. Squidward feels obliged to join and tries to show them how real camping works. SpongeBob tells him about the sea bear, which isn't real.
It might attract a sea bear.
A sea bear? You mean like the ones that don't exist?
But because SpongeBob believes in it, the sea bear becomes real. Squidward, refusing to believe it exists, does everything to provoke it. The sea bear appears and repeatedly beats him up until he finally stands inside the anti-sea bear circle. SpongeBob and Patrick buy invisible spray at a prank shop. Normally it wouldn't work.
Good choice. Now be careful with that stuff, boys. It stains clothes.
But because SpongeBob believes in it, it actually turns them fully invisible. They terrorize Bikini Bottom, pretending to be ghosts. When they try to scare Mr. Krabs, he dumps water on them, making them visible again, and exposes them as the so-called ghosts of Bikini Bottom. After terrifying Mr. Krabs, they owe him a favor and must paint his living room. Mr. Krabs warns them that the paint is permanent, so they freak out about making mistakes. They accidentally create a huge paint bubble, but SpongeBob subconsciously uses his godlike abilities to make the bubble burst perfectly onto the walls without leaving a mess. It's winter in Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob and Patrick start a snowball fight and Squidward joins in. He gets a little bit too excited, so SpongeBob and Patrick leave. Mr. Krabs' greed peaks when he begins charging employees for things like breathing. Squidward refuses and convinces SpongeBob to strike with him, and eventually Mr. Krabs is forced to admit he needs them and rehires them. Mr. Krabs orders Squidward to make a commercial for the Krusty Krab. Squidward goes so over budget that he literally builds a second Krusty Krab. Furious, Mr. Krabs fires everyone except the original crew and his daughter, forcing them to shoot a cheap commercial instead. The commercial airs late at night and SpongeBob appears on screen for a split second. The next morning, someone mistakes him for a cornflakes box and SpongeBob becomes unbearably full of himself. He quits to pursue an artistic career until he realizes he's actually born for flipping patties. Lore-wise, nothing canonical happens here. It's literally a training tape. However, SpongeBob casually uses several of his godlike abilities, meaning this tape must take place fairly late in the timeline. But the tape is likely intended for the new employees of the second Krusty Krab built earlier. After Squidward built a second Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs apparently turned it into a real restaurant, the Krusty Krab 2. SpongeBob arrives at its grand opening, expecting to be announced as the new manager. Instead, Mr. Krabs chooses Squidward, claiming SpongeBob is too childish. Meanwhile, Plankton breaks into King Neptune's castle and steals his crown. Desperate, Neptune storms the Krusty Krab with a fake confession incriminating Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob, hungover from his Goofy Goober meltdown the night before, explodes in frustration right in front of Neptune. He interprets this emotional chaos as guilt and decides to punish Krabs, until SpongeBob steps in and vows to retrieve the crown. Neptune gives him 6 days and freezes Mr. Krabs as collateral. SpongeBob and Patrick hop into the paddy wagon and begin their journey to Shell City. While Plankton begins selling Krabby Patties, he distributes free helmets that secretly mind control everyone in Bikini Bottom. As SpongeBob and Patrick approach a massive trench, they nearly give up, until Neptune's daughter Mindy arrives and gives them fake seaweed mustaches, so they'll feel like men. Because SpongeBob believes in them, they work. They cross the trench only to run into Plankton's hired assassin, who is immediately crushed by a diver, the Cyclops. The diver captures SpongeBob and Patrick and takes them to Shell City, a souvenir shop where he dries creatures out and sells them. But SpongeBob's godlike power triggers a miracle. All the dried out sea creatures come back to life. Together, they overwhelm the Cyclops, retrieve the crown, escape the shop, and are carried back toward the ocean by David Hasselhoff. Back in Bikini Bottom, they return the crown to King Neptune, but Plankton slaps a mind control helmet on the king. SpongeBob unleashes his full god-tier power once more, freeing everyone from Plankton's control and saving the city. Finally, SpongeBob earns what he always wanted, and this is where the story ends for good. He becomes the manager, fulfilling his destiny. SpongeBob displays powers far beyond any normal sea creature, surviving the impossible, reshaping reality, and performing miracles without noticing, which strongly supports the idea that he's essentially a god. And when you rearrange the episodes into a logical timeline, a hidden story emerges. SpongeBob slowly grows stronger, wiser, and more capable until his divine potential fully erupts in the movie. The official order hides his evolution, but the True Chronology reveals it clearly. Together, these theories show that SpongeBob isn't just a fry cook. We've been watching the rise of a deity, a god of joy, of laughter, of unbreakable optimism, a being who reshapes reality the same way he flips a Krabby Patty. And if Bikini Bottom truly follows a hidden timeline, then every episode is another breadcrumb, another secret, another mystery waiting to be solved. So keep your eyes open, the ocean is deeper than it looks, and this video is only just the beginning.